Have you ever wondered what happens to the dogs who are used as bait in the world of dogfighting? The ones who are beaten, tortured, and left to die, forgotten by everyone? I'm about to tell you the story of one of those dogs. His name is Aniken, and his journey is nothing short of incredible. Stay tuned for today's video on pets in love and learn more. Aniken was discovered curled up in a trash pile, barely clinging to life. His body told the story of unimaginable suffering, emaciated, covered in infected wounds that someone had crudely sewn up by hand. He had severe mange, so what looked like brown fur was actually raw, dying skin. It all started with a call. Reggie, always on the lookout for animals in need, received a tip about a skinny pit bull eating in a gas station parking lot. There was nothing extraordinary about the call, just another stray dog in desperate need of help. But as soon as Reggie arrived at the location, he knew something was wrong. The dog was emaciated, covered in ticks, and reeked of decay. This was no ordinary stray. Something more sinister had happened to this dog. Reggie didn't hesitate for a moment. He scooped the dog up and drove straight to the vet, calling in for help from his dedicated team of rescuers along the way. The moment they arrived at the clinic, the gravity of the situation became apparent. Aniken, as they would soon call him, was in critical condition. He was a walking skeleton, with wounds that had been roughly stitched up by someone who had no care for his well-being. His skin was raw from mange, his heart and kidneys were failing, and he had a severe blood infection. He was covered in ticks the size of dimes, each one a painful reminder of his suffering. The vets began their examination, running tests and checking his injuries. They were immediately struck by what they found. "Reggie," the vet said, her voice quiet but steady, "I've seen a lot in my years, but this is something else." "What are you talking about?" Reggie asked, trying to hide the tremble in his voice. He was afraid, but also steeling himself for whatever came next. The vet looked down at Aniken, her eyes filled with sympathy. "This dog, he's a bait dog." Reggie stared at her, his breath catching in his throat. Bait dog?" He wasn't sure he wanted to hear more, but he couldn't stop himself from asking. He already knew in his gut that something was terribly wrong. She nodded, gently running her hands over Aniken's mangy skin, still covered in ticks. "Yes, his teeth have been intentionally removed, all of them. The ones that weren't pulled have been filed down so badly, there's nothing left. The wounds, they're not from normal accidents. Someone purposely hurt him. He was used as a living target." Reggie stood frozen for a moment, trying to process the weight of her words. A bait dog. He'd heard of them, but never thought he'd come face to face with one. He had to swallow the lump in his throat. "Jesus," Reggie whispered, feeling the rage bubble up. "People really do this?" The vet's expression darkened. "It's sickening, but it's all too common in the dogfighting world." Reggie's fists clenched at his sides. How could anyone do that?" he asked, the words almost a whisper, like he couldn't quite believe it. But he didn't need to ask. He could see it in Aniken's eyes. This wasn't just any stray dog. He wasn't just abandoned. No, he was meant to suffer, to endure pain, until he was no longer useful and tossed away like trash. The vet sighed, running a hand through her hair. This poor guy probably wouldn't have made it another week on the street in his condition. Honestly, I think it's a miracle he's still alive. He knelt beside Aniken, who was lying on the exam table, too weak to even lift his head. He gently stroked the dog's head, his fingers trembling. "Well, Aniken," he said softly, "you've made it this far, and I'll be damned if you don't make it all the way." As Reggie left the vet's office that day, the weight of Aniken's past was heavy on his heart. But he knew one thing for sure. He was going to fight for this dog. He wasn't just another victim of abuse. He was a survivor, and with Reggie's team by his side, he was going to have the future he deserved. The next week brought small victories. Aniken began to eat more consistently. He was still very weak, but his body was starting to absorb the nutrition he so desperately needed. His blood levels improved slightly, and the vet reported that his heart, though still weak, was stabilizing. Reggie couldn't stop smiling when he visited him. Aniken, who had once been nothing but a shell of a dog, was slowly coming to life. unthinkable happened. Aniken wagged his tail. For the first time in his life, he curled up with people who cared about him, people who fed him, bathed him, treated him with kindness. He wagged his tail in response to love. It was slow progress, but it was progress. But there was still a long road ahead. Aniken had to undergo hyperbaric oxygen treatments to help heal his wounds and improve his blood circulation. Reggie found a loving family near the vet clinic to foster him during this time, and it made all the difference. Aniken's new foster parents took him in with open arms, giving him the gentle care and attention he needed to continue healing. They fed him high-calorie meals and made sure he was comfortable. Every day, Aniken's foster mom would help him with small walks around the yard. At first, he was hesitant, dragging his paws as if the simple act of moving was a monumental task. But then one day, something changed. Reggie's friend had sent a squeaky toy, one of those colorful, noisy ones that made Aniken's ears perk up. He'd never played with a toy before, but something about that squeaky noise made his tail twitch, then wiggle, and then, just like that, he was chasing it across the yard, proudly carrying it in his mouth. It was like watching a dog rediscover joy for the first time. He looked at his foster family as if to say, "Did I do that right?" And when they cheered and clapped for him, Aniken wagged his tail so hard it looked like he might take off flying. His foster dad, grinning from ear to ear, said, "You've still got it, buddy." And Aniken's eyes sparkled for the first time since he had been rescued. The next day it happened again, and again. Aniken wasn't just learning how to live again, he was learning how to have fun. But it wasn't all serious healing work. Sometimes Aniken could be a little mischievous too. One afternoon, his foster mom was doing laundry, and she left the laundry room door open for just a second. Aniken, ever the curious one, padded over and, without hesitation, pulled an entire sock out of the laundry basket, shaking it around like it was a prize. He pranced proudly across the living room, the sock dangling from his mouth, and dropped it in front of her like he was showing off a trophy. His foster mom laughed. "Okay, I see how it is. Sock thief!" By the time Aniken was about a month into his new life, the changes were obvious. Despite the long hours spent in the hospital and the treatments that seemed endless, Aniken was thriving. He was gaining weight, his fur was starting to grow back, and he was slowly regaining his confidence. His foster family adored him and began to send Reggie updates. Aniken seemed to understand that he was loved. But the biggest turning point came when Aniken's foster family made an announcement. They wanted to adopt him. The decision was made with love and care, and Reggie knew it was the right one. Aniken had finally found his forever home. For the first time in his life, he had a family who would always take care of him, who would love him unconditionally. The adoption day was emotional. Aniken, now fully healed and much stronger, stood by his new family, his tail wagging uncontrollably. Reggie could hardly believe it was the same dog who had been found starving in a trash pile, covered in scars and riddled with pain. But here he was, a completely different dog. "You did it, buddy," Reggie whispered to him, tears filling his eyes. "You made it." Years passed, and Aniken, now called Ian, blossomed in his forever home. His new family spoiled him with love, and Ian became the confident, happy dog he had always been meant to be. He had a new best friend in his dog siblings, a loving dad who always made sure he was safe, and a mom who adored him beyond measure. He was the picture of joy, a far cry from the broken dog who had once been discarded like trash. Every time Reggie saw an update or a photo of Ian, his heart swelled with pride. Aniken, who had been nothing but a tool of cruelty and a victim of monsters, had become a cherished family member, a dog who would know nothing but love for the rest of his life. Reggie had kept his promise. Aniken had fought to survive, and now he had a sweet life filled with everything he deserved. In the end, Ian's story was more than just one of survival. It was a story of hope, of resilience, and of the incredible power of love. Because sometimes, love really is the thing that saves us all. Thanks to the incredible team at Reggie's Friends and his amazing foster family, Aniken has found the love and safety he had been denied for so long. His story is just one of many, and it's a powerful call to action for all of us to be aware of the horrors that exist and to step up when we can. Have you ever encountered a dog like Aniken, or perhaps another animal in need? How do you think we can make a difference in the lives of those who need us most? Share your thoughts below. Fry. Thank you for watching till the end. If you find our video interesting, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with others. Finally, don't forget to turn on our bell and subscribe to our channel Pets in Love so you don't miss any of our new videos. Thank you for your support. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.